Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, Sam Bushman, James Edwards. This is the broadcast for November 5th. An absolute strange day, election-wise, yesterday. The Democrats want you to believe it's a landslide, a mandate. I don't think so. I think a bunch of liberal areas where we didn't really run serious people created a bunch of failures for the Republicans. Shame on them. They should have come out with some strong, deliberate, well-funded candidates, and they actually could have won, believe it or not. I'm just telling you right now. You've got these extreme, crazy communists and liberals, and, that's my opinion to which I'm entitled. But Joshua Phillips says, hey, socialism could become key political issue for 2026. Amen, Josh. You're right as rain, and I hope that happens. You watch these people melt down, and you'll see what's going to happen. Now, President Trump's meeting with senators to try to, get the filibuster waived or, drop the filibuster temporarily or possibly permanently. It's a disaster. Don't do it, Donald. What you need to do is get Mike Johnson back in the seat and pass single-item bills and force up and down votes so you can absolutely show who's who. And if they vote against common sense measures that are non-political, like funding the air traffic controllers, you've got a lot of feathers in your cap over that. But right now, when Johnson sits at home, the blame is starting to shift against the Republicans. I hate to say that, but you're going to see the writing on the wall at some point. They're going to say, hey, we've had a big win, a mandate. We're being shanghaied by the Republicans. It's not true, but that's how they'll spin it. Keep an eye on that ball. Anyway, going forward, this is interesting. California, James, is melting down too. They're going to redistrict there, so you're going to see a massive. You think California's been socialist now. They're going straight into blatant communism down there, in my humble opinion. But California is going to be expected to spend 28 times more on health care benefits for illegal aliens than on the state police for the 25-26 budget. Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom, I guess he's putting $348 million to law enforcement, while the state's own budget experts are saying, hey, they estimate the tab for illegal alien health care amounts to $10 billion. This is the kind of meltdown you're going to see. $10 billion. They don't even have any money over there. But yet they're going to promote $10 billion on illegal aliens, and they're going to really give pittance to law enforcement. James, it's disaster. Your thoughts?
It's going to be very interesting to see. And, of course, this is, in a way, the economic disaster of so-called socialism is readily apparent in a society like this. If you had a society where everyone was a producer, it's a different conversation, okay? It's going to have a different outcome. That's not to say that we might want a socialistic society, but if you have a nation of one people and they're all working and they're all providing, that's a different story. What we have here, of course, is a nation that the undertow, the non-producers outweigh the producers. So how in the world is that supposed to make economic sense?
Figured out how to vote largesse from the Treasury is what's happened, right?
Right. Yeah, they're just all of these different competing groups are just that's what America's come down to. Take however much you can get and don't worry about anything else. And you have a group, the working class of America is dwindling, and it cannot keep up with the people on the welfare rolls and getting all these subsidies.
Know the biggest reason? Because the welfare rolls are all these illegals and the welfare rolls are all these socialists, but the conservatives aren't having any babies. And so we got a massive deficit on that side of the discussion as well.
There you go. That's a big part of it, Sam. You're spot on. And
Can't
so
blame it
in a
on me,
place
buddy.
like
I'm telling you right now.
No, you cannot. In a place like California, though, where they're going hog wild and pig crazy on, just giving away the money to all of the aggrieved people groups and all the people, the illegals especially, which is a big part of this shutdown. It's going to be amazing to see what happens to California. And as we said in the first hour, I mean, maybe California and New York City will be an example that the GOP can use to say, if you want the whole country like this, vote for them in the midterms. We'll see. But going back to this lockdown or the shutdown, now this is very interesting. You know, we talked to Steve Stockman the first couple of days of this thing here on Liberty Roundtable, former congressman. Now, he would be a great one to get back in there, I can tell you that, if we should ever be so lucky, because Texas has redrawn
Pray
some
hard,
lines as
work
well.
hard, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe we just might catch lightning in a bottle and it'll happen, huh?
Maybe something, because I'm telling you, it's interesting that, well, first of all, he said even during the first couple of days of this thing, every time I've talked to him about something big picture like this, he's so prescient. He said, this thing's going to last at least a month. And I was thinking maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. He said at least a month. Now we're 36 days in. He was right again. And a big hang-up, they say, is over the fact of illegal aliens receiving these subsidies and voting. And now we're at day 36. And
yeah, so I got a question. If you were to take the illegal voting out of New York and ran a real candidate, would we have won?
Now that's a whole other ballgame there. Yes, but that's a different thing. Because then you're conflating reality with what we could do in a hypothetical New York City. I mean, if New York City was
you're talking about what could be reality if we were to get serious.
Okay, well, there's that. So, but this thing with redistricting, though, is so Texas, at the behest of the White House, redrew the lines and are going to deliver 5 more GOP seats in the midterms. Well, now all of the blue states are getting on board. California voted it in last night or on Tuesday. But, the thing about California and these other states, especially in New England, is they've already gerrymandered all of the Republicans out. Listen to this statistic, Sam. This is incredible.
Isn't that awesome? They just literally gerrymander out and then claim there's no election fraud.
Well, just listen to this. So everybody's, all the left is going nuts.
And all the Republicans have to say for themselves is, please gerrymander my way. That's all they have to say about it.
Well, I don't mind that, Sam. I mean, what's the alternative? You're just going to get run through? I mean, I'd rather listen, if you could gerrymander a Republican
alternative to that is hold on. The alternative to that is to listen to the candid, honest, prophetic with a small p discussions of the founders. Partisan politics, backing parties will be the country's ruin. And the only way to solve it is to jettison partisan politics and move back to principle-based candidates. That's the only way. And I know we're far down the road and everything, but I'm just telling you, the founders warned about that, and they're spot on.
Well, I don't disagree with you on that, but the fact of the matter is this isn't the country that the founding fathers had in mind. All right, they never would have imagined America would become what it is.
Well, they would. They said if you had parties, this is what would happen, and now we see it. So they pretty much prophesied and predicted all this, right?
Well, with the party thing, yes, but I mean, they never expected America to have all of these other people as citizens. I mean, America was an extension of Europe. The founding.
That's right. Sure.
The only people given the franchise to vote back then were white male property owners. I mean, no, so they couldn't have foreseen where we're at. But nevertheless, with redistricting, so in New England, get this, the 6 upper New England states. Okay, so Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, those states up in that area, the 6 most northeastern New England states. Those 6 states deliver over 40% of their vote to the Republican candidate for president. Okay, get this. 40% of the vote of those 6 New England states goes to the GOP. Out of those 6 states, the GOP has 0, not one member of the House, and certainly not a senator either. So not one member of Congress out of 6 states that goes 40% Republican. Now, how in the hell did that happen?
Why? Well, because it's a selection, not an election. That's how.
Well, but the left is going nuts about Texas drawing 5 more Republican-leaning districts when they've already gerrymandered the Republican Party completely out of existence in the state.
But if we're going to agree that we're just going to gerrymander and you want the Republican gerrymander or the Democratic gerrymander, then it's hard to say when you commit election fraud who's the bigger fraud committer.
Well, I get that, Sam, but I mean the thing is, I mean what you're advocating for is the way we would like things to be. Unfortunately, we have to live in the way the world is.
Some would say it's not the real, it's the ideal, and that's all true. But ladies and gentlemen, if we don't start to pick principled candidates, If we continue to back the good old boy network, even Republican style, you're promoting a failed agenda, an agenda that will not long-term work. The founders told you that, and you're seeing the repercussions of what they predicted right now.
Well,
right?
now
So
I'll say
California's
this.
going to spend 28 times the money on illegals than they will on their law enforcement. They literally had riots so much in California to where Donald Trump had to send troops to stop it. And now they're going to basically defund law enforcement and fund illegal alien health care. That's what they're doing. So you're going to see a greater disparity between the states, the conservatives and the communists is what you're going to see. Anyway, when we get back, I want to talk about what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is talking about. This is interesting to say the least. I'm Sam Bushman, James Edwards with me. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at CSPOA.org. That's CSPOA.org.
If Planned Parenthood were what they publicly declare themselves to be, they would welcome transparency. We all know why they hide, because we know what they hide. We can confirm federal judges who follow the Constitution rather than reverse engineer their preferred policy outcomes. The truth about abortion is spreading because of advances in medical imaging, because of brave journalists, tireless activists, compassionate doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. The rising generation of young Americans is the most pro-life in decades because they know too. And one day soon, we will reaffirm our nation's principles in their dignified fullness and avow once again that all men are created equal. All are entitled to life.
All right, back with you live. Sam Bushman, James Edwards. Hard-hitting talk at your fingertips, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to talk about this issue with Scott Bessent. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated on CNN. That's a whole discussion we ought to have, by the way. Why is Scott on CNN? Why is he not on the Liberty Roundtable Live? Why give credibility to these clowns in the media that just hate everything we do? But they continue to go on their shows and promote them and make them popular and get them ratings and support, while the rest of us seem to struggle for the, table scraps, whatever you want to say. It's just insanity. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated on CNN that some sectors of the U.S. economy are in recession, and he urged the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates to support the economy. Now, Stephen Merlin, President Trump's appointee to the Federal Reserve, also advocated for lower interest rates to stem the downturn. They argued that high mortgage rates have negatively impacted the housing market and other industries. This, I guess, is part of the Trump administration, and they say, hey, the problem here is we've got increased tariffs, we've got decreased spending. Despite this, the Treasury Department recently reported that it does not see or anticipate a recession. They say it'll be fine. The debate is on the economy, and that's why Trump won in 24, people. In my mind, it was the economy, stupid. And everybody realized, hey, the economy is not going well under Joe. Let's give Trump a chance to right the economy. Trump has not accomplished it. The economy didn't spin down into meltdown mode, but he hasn't done very well. And I'm going to tell you why I think he hasn't done well and then get James's take. Number one, you add tariffs. I support it. But you leave Congress on the sidelines when it's a delegated congressional responsibility, you're making a mistake. Trump, you're walking alone, buddy. You say, well, Congress won't go along. Then you need to expose that fact. But when you do it on your own, you act like a kingmaker. When you get Congress involved, you could codify a lot of what's being done here. Put significant pressure. Have the people help you. Put significant pressure on Congress. But at the end of the day, you cannot add a bunch of tariffs onto products coming into the United States because nobody pays taxes except for people. Government doesn't. Business doesn't. All they do is pass taxes to we the people. And you've added a bunch of taxes with tariffs, and you say, we're raising all this money. That's great, Donald. But unless you provide relief for me, you've just doubled my taxation. Maybe not literally in fact of finances, but you've increased my burden substantially. If you're going to crank up the ERS, the External Revenue Service, through tariffs, that's a delightful thing. Bring it on. Let's do it. But you've got to jettison the IRS at the same time. Shut down the criminal IRS, Donald, and shut down the communist Federal Reserve, and then you might get somewhere. But begging the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates when it's controlled by Democrats, controlled by a man that you put in place, you're in a losing position. You got to do something bold and new and innovative, something that transcends partisan politics to get the American people going, yeah, buddy. And the way you do that is you shut down the communist IRS, the criminal organization that's been terrorist organization against the American people for decades. What do you say, James?
Sam, I voted for Trump 3 times. I'm generally in favor, but I agree with you all the way on this one. I too am in favor of tariffs, but I can remember a conversation that you and I were having about this very topic, either right before or right after the election last year. And those tariffs needed to come attendant with the dismantling of the IRS. That needed to be the revenue source for the federal government's budget, but while also giving the American people some relief and some more buying power. And as far as the economy goes, it has not gotten better. I mean, the cost of living are still sky high, the highest they've ever been in the history of the republic, and your purchasing power in real estate. This is something I bring up all the time when the topic of the economy is on the table. I can remember what it was like, being first married. I got married when I was 26, and my wife was 20. And by the time we were 30, we were homeowners, and that is making very modest wages, and that is just absolutely impossible. And you've got kids that are sort of in that age and even younger, and my kids are 15, 11, and 5 respectively, and I just shudder at the thought of them having to go out there and being able to survive right now with the economy what it is. I don't know what young people, because I'm a couple of decades removed from that time in my life, if you're in your late teens, early 20s, what are your prospects for housing right now?
They're very narrow indeed. You got to buy a townhouse. They have all kinds of covenants on the houses with all kinds of HOAs, just robbing the people of all their money and everything else. It's very difficult to get a start. It's disaster, folks. And instead of saying, oh, housing prices are too high, no, you got to talk about why housing prices are too high. Well, Sam, it's because of the interest rates. The feds won't lower them. No. The feds have created dishonest money, okay? It costs anywhere from 10 to 15 cents to create a $1 bill, a $10 bill, a $20 bill, and a $100 bill. And they lie and fraudulently put the face value there, even though it's not true. There's no real value at all. And with dishonest money and the manipulation of everything in the economy, it's flat out communist, socialist control. How do you expect it? Go look at your Communist Manifesto if you don't believe me, people. Progressive income taxes, belligerent property taxes, government schools, all these things. Hey, inheritance taxes. What taxes have been reduced on me since you've added tariffs? Okay, and why do we have to have the government control interest rates in the first place? Just fire them from that job. Just say we're not doing it anymore. It's criminal, it's dishonest, and it's going to stop. But see, all you're going to do is just nibble around the edges and go, if I put my guy on the board, he might help them lower interest rates. What should interest rates be if it were true supply and demand? Okay, but the reason that the dollar amounts are so high for houses is because of fake money. If you went back to constitutional currency, all that dishonest, quote, blue sky would be gone. Secondly, if you let the interest rates be controlled by supply and demand, they'd fall where they really deserve to be based on real economic data, not based on manipulations from some folks that go, hey, with the government shut down, we can't really even see what we're doing. Well, you can't see what you're doing anyway. A silver dollar used to be $1. Now a silver dollar costs over $40, people. If that doesn't tell you how they've raped the economy and created the hidden tax of inflation that's betrayed all Americans, I don't know what does. See, who's going to talk straight to the American people besides me, James? No one else is even calling this a spade. Right?
And you have been so diverse in your pursuits in life in terms of talk radio network founder. Yes, everybody knows that, but you've had experience in real estate and in finance and in a lot of different things. So you do really have a firm handle and grasp on these things. And again, the manipulation with the interest rates is another interesting topic of conversation. I mean, why have the interest rates jumped to where they are from 2020 to today? I can remember the interest rates
because the
interest
Feds
rates got
raised them. That's why.
They got solely. Well, that is a surefire, unequivocal answer.
Okay, but think about in the West too, where I live. Though the federal government controls 80+% of the land, and they'll wonder when we live. We have these postage stamp lots, and nobody can have any land to grow gardens or do. And you go, why? Because the supply and demand is just out of whack. Why doesn't the government be like, hey, we're going to turn over this land, we're going to give people homesteads, we're going to, let the people spread out and do it and. They could do that, but Donald hasn't even he hasn't even lifted a finger to talk about that. What about the lands of the West, wrongfully, illegal, immorally controlled by the federal government where their constitution doesn't give them any authority to control those lands? See, we're not even talking about real issues. We're like, yeah, we're going to back Cuomo because, our Republican guy's no good and we don't want a socialist. So, well, with that kind of strategy, you're going to lose everywhere you go. When are you going to get rid of the IRS? When are you going to stop the Federal Reserve from dishonestly manipulating every aspect of our economy? Every aspect is controlled by the Fed, a private banking cartel, James.
This is a very interesting conversation because we all, I include myself in this, we all get sort of just totally occupied with the big political issues. But another thing that a government is responsible for doing is maintaining some sort of reasonable standard of living for its citizens. And we don't have that now. Now, a lot of that is, as a result, it is hitched to the immigration issue. I mean, the immigration issue and the rising costs, that they are, there's some correlation there. But there are some other reasons, why we can't afford anything anymore and why prices are so high and why it costs $20 to get a combo at McDonald's and why
you got less Snickers in your Snickers bar there, James. Just saying.
I tell you what, we went trick-or-treating. We put in the little extra time for trick-or-treating so we could eat, so we could eat candy bars for the next week. No, but seriously, our house is really worth twice as much now than they were 5 years ago. I know that's what they're saying.
No.
How did that happen?
A house is a liability, folks. You got to keep it up. You got to, upgrade the tile and the carpets and the plumbing, and you got to do all this maintenance and all this work to, make it modern. Otherwise, it falls out of date and everything else. Houses are liabilities, folks. They shouldn't be just like increasing in value.
Like a car. A car depreciates for obvious reasons. It wears out. Same true with a house. How's a house? A house gets older every year, but it only skyrockets in value. It doesn't even begin to make sense. I mean, I get supply and demand, but nevertheless.
All right, we're going to talk about anti-Semitism, James. You got to discuss that, don't you? Tucker Carlson in the doghouse say the Republicans and say I don't know who they are, the anti-Semites, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk about all that, ladies and gentlemen. Very strange brew on TV, that's for sure. Hey, why are the Republicans all promoting CNN and MSNBC and all these people they disagree with? Why don't they come on some of our shows and decrease the authority and power of the mainstream betrayer press, in my humble opinion? And why not stand with good, honest people that'll have their back and tell the truth? That's another disconnect I don't understand. But there you have it. By the way, I was told I could be part of the press by the White House. I've never heard back from them. Have you?
Proclaiming liberty across the land. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. From packing the Supreme Court to statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico to grab more political power, President Trump predicts dire consequences for American democracy if the Democrat momentum seen in yesterday's midterm elections continues. Republicans got shellacked in yesterday's voting in New York City, New Jersey, and Virginia. New York's next mayor will be socialist Zohran Mamdani.
Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands.
In New Jersey, Democrat Mikey Sherrill is the governor-elect. In Virginia, Democrats have won the race for governor and for attorney general. President Trump is turning up the heat on Senate Democrat Republicans to do away with the filibuster.
With the government shutdown now the longest in U.S. history, the president told GOP senators it's time to change the rules and do away with the filibuster.
And if you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation.
Even though the filibuster's 60-vote threshold has prevented Republicans from reopening the government, GOP leaders have strongly opposed changing it. They argue it's allowed them to halt Democratic policies when Republicans were in the minority. Greg Clugston, Washington.
The National Transportation Safety Board will investigate the deadly crash of a UPS cargo plane in Kentucky. 9 people were killed when the aircraft crashed and burned upon takeoff at the Louisville airport. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear.
The main area hit consisted of 2 businesses, though we know there were more businesses impacted.
Of the 9 people who died, 6 were on the ground, the others crew members on board the plane. On Wall Street, the Dow is up 85 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
So my mother is thinking of switching from Verizon to Pure Talk, but she's worried the deal sounds too good to be true. Michael, she said, how can those Pure Talk people offer me the same basic service as Verizon for so much less money? I said, Ma, go ask Google how much Verizon spends on advertising and promotions. A few seconds later, my mother said, oh my goodness, $12 billion a year? That must be a typo. I'll tell you what I told my mom. It's not a typo. Verizon spends $12 billion a year on advertising and promotions, and their customers are paying for it. Well, Pure Talk doesn't spend that kind of money on commercials. Trust me, I would know. That's why they can offer you and my mother unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data on a crazy fast 5G network for just $25 a month. And if you're a business owner, you could really save a fortune. Dial pound 250, say the words Mike Rowe, and you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. That's pound 250 Mike Rowe. Pure Talk. Everything you need and nothing you don't.
As a parent, is receiving a faith-based, character-focused education for your children difficult to find? Do you believe that godly principles should be a central component in your child's education? Imagine a school where faith and integrity are at its center, where heritage and responsibility instill character. For over 40 years, American Heritage School has been educating both hearts and minds, bringing out academic excellence. This is the school where character and embracing the providence of a living God are fundamental, where students' national test scores average near the 90th percentile. With American Heritage School's advanced distance education program, distance is no longer an issue. With an accredited LDS-oriented curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade, your children can attend from anywhere in the world. American Heritage School will prepare your child for more than a job. It will prepare them for life. To learn more, visit american-heritage.org. That's american-heritage.org.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
All right, back with you live. James Edwards, yours truly, breaking it all down just for you. Tucker Carlson's in the doghouse, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Well, he committed the unpardonable sin. Yes, indeed. Headline says Republican lawmakers distance themselves from Tucker Carlson following his interview with Nick Fuentes, indicating they got a party rift over anti-Semitism. So, on Capitol Hill, GOP members disavowed anti-Semitism and supported Israel without directly criticizing Carlson. But Senator Rick Scott emphasized the, quote, GOP stance on anti-Semitism. Senator Ted Cruz urged the party to, quote, eliminate such views, criticizing Carlson at a recent event. Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts, good on him, supported Tucker Carlson, calling him a friend of the foundation. Senator Lindsey Graham and Representative Byron Donalds and Mr. Fine also condemned anti-Semitism, saying, hey, Tucker Carlson's a threat to America. Matt Brooks of the, quote, Jewish Coalition criticized Carlson for not challenging Fuentes on his extreme views in the interview. So I want to talk about this for a minute, ladies and gentlemen, and this is kind of the issue that I have. Why do we criticize people for talking? Tucker Carlson, myself, many others are willing to interview and discuss with anyone. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we seek to understand before being understood? Why wouldn't we give someone a chance? I don't need to bring somebody on and beat them up. I don't even need to bring them on and ask them hard questions necessarily. Why can't Nick have his views, Tucker have his views, and all these different, supposed GOP people have their own views? And why can't we just leave it like that? Why do we have to say Tucker's an enemy? I don't think Tucker's an enemy. Okay? I think the Heritage Foundation president, Kevin Roberts, is absolutely right. He says, hey, Carlson is a friend of the foundation. I think Carlson's my friend too. He's one of the best ones in the media. But see, now you got Trump attacking Carlson. You got all these whatever. What does even anti-Semite mean? What does that even mean, James? So-called, the Jews have a special word that if you don't go along with everything the Jewish government or the Jewish agenda says, that you're somehow a hater and an anti-Semite. And they're the only group in society that have that kind of their own word to describe if you're not with them, you're against them in a hostile, evil, satanic way. I mean, they've co-opted religion to where, you're against God if you don't back Israel. And they've created this big dishonest lie around this. And now Tucker Carlson taking a beating by all these so-called GOP folks. What on earth is happening, James?
Well, in a lot of ways, it's the same as what was going on 21 years ago when I started the radio program, and even longer than that when you started Liberty RoundTable and continued on for so many years. It's the same old stuff. I can remember anyone of any renown who ever came on my show back in those early years, it was in the news. And then, of course, around 2015, our talking points became so ubiquitous. Everybody with a microphone and a computer now is a commentator, and there's literally hundreds of podcasts and live streams that talk about these issues now, but it wasn't the case 20 years ago.
I was talking about it too. Yeah.
Yeah, sure you were. Well, hey, listen. Hey, and by the way, Sam, I got to give you some credit. There was a new article out. I want to get to Fuentes and Tucker because it is an interesting and important, I think, in many ways, a conversation. The reaction to it also interesting. But there was something had come up in the news about the SPLC's hate watch list and the number of hate groups in every state. Oh
yeah, we should have talked about that. We'll have to have you on soon again to do so.
I have never seen it, ladies and gentlemen. I have proudly maintained a position on the SPLC's hate watch list since 2006. Okay, it gets renewed every year. Every now and then, somebody, if they die or something, they fall off, or something can happen and you can lose your standing. I have proudly been a member of that since 2006, but I have never, ever seen a single person be listed as two hate groups. Not only is he just an individual.
Dang right, buddy. I'm prolific, ladies and gentlemen.
Sam is listed as two separate hate groups on the SPLC's website, which the media cites as if it was Jesus Christ.
Though. If I'm such a hater, why won't they come on and we can talk about it? James, why don't we have an open dialogue with the Southern Poverty Law Center about their hate group and why I'd be listed twice, and let's talk about the organization and how am I a hater? See? I mean, am I an anti-Semite? What is an anti-Semite, really? What is that? And does it only relate to the people of Israel or Jewish people? Does it only relate to them?
Well, see, I mean, technically, the Semites are, for lack of a better definition, just basically the people of the Middle East, and that is Jew and Arab alike. But of course, in modern parlance, especially in modern political parlance, anti-Semite means you are anti-Jewish. Now, what is it to be anti-Jewish? Well, I wrote about this in Racism Schmacism. I said a racist is a white person. A white supremacist is a white person who doesn't hate themselves. An anti-Semite is a Gentile, and a neo-Nazi is anyone who's ever disagreed with a Jewish person. But
hold on, though. So I reject all that, though. Why can't I explain to you what I am? See? Why do we have to just say, oh, Nick's evil? Tucker, how dare you talk to Nick? Okay? Anti-Semitism is prejudice, hostility, or discrimination against Jews as a religious or a racial group. It's a form of racism that has manifested itself in various ways throughout history, from individual prejudice to discrimination to institutional and state-sponsored aggression. There are several forms of anti-Semitism, including 1, religious anti-Semitism. This form is based on this idea that Jews have a faith that is inferior or threatening to other religions. This form of anti-Semitism was primarily prevalent in Christian and Islamic societies where Jews are always persecuted for their beliefs, etc. Well, I'm not a Jew, so I don't believe their religion is equal to mine. I don't believe the Muslim religion is equal to mine. I believe Christianity is the true religion. Now, isn't it true that the Jews believe theirs is, and the Muslims believe theirs is too? So how am I anti-Semite, but they're not if they think their religion is superior? Everybody, whatever religious faith you are, you think it's superior, you wouldn't be part of it, James.
Everybody should have a natural pride in their tribe, proud of how God made them, and certainly if you don't believe your religion is superior, why do you belong to it? I agree 100% on that. Now, but the thing with Tucker and Nick, it goes back, I mean, we were touching on this earlier.
Yeah, but why can't Tucker talk to Nick?
It goes back to the same strategies that they were employing 20 years ago to try to make people radioactive. If you interview people that are beyond our pale, they will try to disparage both you and them and ruin you. But the thing that has changed from the way it used to be is that our ideas have already won. I mean, now things like this, nobody cares. It's over. It really is over. And this whole thing that you see coming out now from the pro-Jewish lobby and their puppets and Lindsey Graham and people like that. Mark Levine
literally they've controlled the whole House and Senate. That's kind of another interesting thing is, hey, if we want to talk about election fraud, why does Israel have so much control over our electorate? Israel has more control than we, the people that hired them, and should fire them for that matter.
Well, they certainly have control over the Congress through AIPAC and the amount of funding. I mean, they can, the AIPAC single-handedly took out a couple of the left, the squad people for not being sufficiently pro-Israel. So they can certainly still influence elections. But however, on the base level of the American public right now, especially on the right, this whole tantrum about Tucker interviewing Nick Fuentes is less about Fuentes and the fact that that their lobby has lost the young right. That is what scares them, and that is why they're lashing out right now. Everyone under 45 has seen these horrific videos coming out of Gaza, and there's really no coming back from that. And Nick Fuentes spoke at a conference I put together in Chattanooga a few years ago, and he has certainly broken through, whether you like him or not, or like certain aspects of his personality or not, or want to critique this or that. He has broken through in a way with young people that is absolutely unsurpassed.
Amen.
There's
Let
no
me be
doubt
very,
about that.
very clear. Nick has every right to his own opinions, to his own beliefs, to his own thoughts, and he has every right to freely speak and talk about them, as do the people of Israel, as do any of us. They say racial anti-Semitism developed in the 19th and 20th century, folks. This ideology considers Jews to be a distinct and inferior race. I've never ran around and said the Jews are an inferior race, whether it's religion or race. I've never said anything like that. How do they put me involved in that? I've never said such a thing at all. I say we're all God's children. Let's act like it. Now, religiously, I believe that my religion is superior, but they believe their religion is superior. No harm, no foul. Let's go our own ways, right?
They want to be immune from criticism, and no one should be immune from criticism.
Well, I want to be immune from criticism. I want nobody to criticize me, James. Just kidding. If you want to criticize me, go right ahead. This is America, baby. Hang tight. Liberty Roundtable Live.
Scott Bradley here. Most Americans are painfully aware that the nation is on the wrong track and in dire straits. Unfortunately, most political pundits only nibble around the edges when they claim to address the issues. Even worse, many of the so-called solutions are simply rewarmed servings of what got us into the mess we currently face. And the politicians think we're so gullible and naive that we'll buy their lies that they have reformed, and now understand where they led us astray. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that they simply wish to continue to hold power. The solution to America's challenges is found in returning to the timeless principles found in the United States Constitution. My book and lecture series will reawaken in Americans an understanding and love of the principles which made this nation the freest, most prosperous, happiest, and most respected nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com and order my book and lectures to begin the restoration of this great nation.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
All right, back with you live. So here's my point. Anti-Semitism is basically culturally, religiously, race, inferior, this, that. It's anything you do politically or whatever that doesn't 100% put the Jews in godlike status, special protection status, then you're an anti-Semite. It's a lie. But here's the proof that they're the racists. They're the ones that are, what am I called? If they attack me and say Sam Bushman is this and that and that and the other, and what's the word for it when I'm abused like that, James?
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
You want me to tell you what the word is?
Yeah, go ahead.
No harm, no foul.
Yes, I mean,
right?
Whites are constantly, white Christians, especially white conservative Christians, constantly demonized, constantly ridiculed, constantly blamed for all of the world's ills.
Abused. Yeah.
If anyone ever tries to stand up for the unique group interest of that particular group of people, which I have always done, you are immediately called a racist, a white supremacist, a neo-Nazi.
When they do that to me and attack me and everything else and do all that to me, they ridicule me, they mock me, they say you can't even take your kids out of our perverted, godless agendas, whether it be critical race theory, whether it be gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, brainwashing, whatever. I can't take my kids out but when they abuse me like that, is there even a word for it? And there's not, folks. This proves my point. There's not even a term for that, right?
No, there isn't, because whites heretofore have not been able to have their own. Now, we changed the game, literally. The first to do it with TPC being an, avowed broadcast for this particular group of people. But heretofore, whites have not been allowed to have their own media. Going back some years now, it has changed over the course of the last decade, for sure. But prior to that, whites were not allowed to have their own media, their own spokesman, not
That's
anybody
right.
who would say anything good about whites as a group. You could say good things about certain individual whites as long as you didn't mention that they were white, whereas everyone else, of course, could praise themselves and their collective for their unique ethnic identity. But anyway, to Tucker and to Nick, it was a good conversation. I didn't watch all of it. I watched a lot of the clips, a lot of the highlights. I liked a lot of the things. I mean, Tucker was still trying to, pull a few not pull a few punches, but Tucker should be saying really everything that was coming from across the table. We could tweak things, and that's what people do. Rather than focusing on the 90% of the things you like, you're going to tweak the things you didn't like, and I'm not going to do that. But it was a good conversation, and the bottom line is...
But I got to give Tucker a shout-out, though. Why can't we bring more people to the... Look, the liberals used to, on their liberal talk shows, they used to have these women from New York, and they'd be like, can we talk? James, can we talk? And they'd do that, and now they're like, don't you dare talk. Don't you dare even give Nick a chance to express his views. Don't you dare be kind to anyone. Why are we allowing the abortionists, the pro-murder agenda, to talk all day long? I mean, they're way worse than Nick, right? What about these people that are anti-Christians and want to literally deform, mutilate your children's bodies? They're okay, supposedly, to talk to, right? Okay, this is insane. And somebody's got to call it such, James.
Well, that's right. And while it still has not entirely permeated the halls of Congress, what's the old saying? Politics flows downstream from culture. The youth on the right, for better or worse, or just as a matter of fact, the youth on the right, and I'm talking about the late teens, early 20s, maybe even up to mid-20s, the generation that will come into power as life progresses, are much closer to Nick Fuentes than they are to Lindsey Graham or Ted Cruz.
And we let those guys go on as if they have no harm, no foul in the world, right? And so the truth is going to roll down from the culture, and the politicians are going to get it last. I'm not here to promote any anti-Semitism or attack any group religiously or from a race point of view. I'm just here to tell you that God, well, we're all his children. There you have it. All right, Jack Smith. I have a hard time believing he's one of God's children, but he is. I know it's true. Wow. Anyway, Jack Smith, that's the special counsel who twice indicted former President Trump, has now expressed eagerness to make a case against President Trump, which was previously hindered by the Supreme Court case by the Florida judge back when, it was like, hey, he has immunity or whatever else. But Smith basically says, hey, bring it on. We want to have a battle with Trump. Smith is ready for the battle. Now, House Republicans have unveiled documents showing how Smith is a clown and what wrong he's done. But, hey, the Democrats keep releasing all the things that Smith's done against other people. Bottom line, Smith has been, in my opinion, really the lawfare leader here. And why we can't prosecute him, that's the other Republican problem. They don't have anything to show for it. They told you how evil these criminals were, and they prosecuted virtually none of them, James.
Well, now they have...
Which criminal has gone to prison, buddy?
No, well, none of them have gone to prison. But, I mean, they don't put a lot... Well, they put some Republicans in prison, that's for sure. But now they do have some indictments, against... It looks like Letitia James and Comey's in some hot water and some others. Now, but Jack Smith should be the one that they really go after. I mean, he's still out there sowing his evil fruit. He's not even laying low. And he should be the one. They got Bolton, and hopefully these people will go to prison. If nothing else, I mean, they'll just lawfare them for a while like the left loves to do.
I don't have any confidence they'll go to prison.
Well, it's certainly going to make their lives a little harder.
They'll get Ghislaine Maxwell prison. They'll get like super low. They'll get like Jeffrey Epstein type prison terms is about all.
Well, I mean, typically this is a form of political warfare now, is this lawfare, where even if you don't go to prison, you're still, it's still going to be ruinous to your life in many ways. It's certainly going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to cause you a lot of stress and turmoil. And so there are punishments and repercussions that come short of a prison sentence that are still very real that no one would like to go through. So, I mean, they are at least inflicting that on some of these bad actors. But Jack Smith would be, boy, he needs to be had a good look taken.
Let me give you an example. Didn't the GOP-controlled House Judiciary Committee call Smith to testify?
Now that I don't remember.
Yeah, is he testifying? No. They continue to focus on discrediting him, but hey, he just keeps fighting back. What's the big deal? No harm, no foul. None of this stuff is happening, and this is why I'm so critical of the Republicans, because they've done nothing. I can't point to a lot of things they've
there's
done.
No doubt about it.
All I can say is, well, they weren't as bad as the other guys would have been. Other than that, there's nothing I can promote them for, James.
They have done more this time, maybe not in going after their adversaries the way we would like, but there's no doubt that Trump has done some good things since January.
Trump's done a lot of good things, but the Congress and the Republican Party haven't done any good.
That's a different problem. Well, no, you are correct. And
in fact, they've been against Trump on almost everything he's tried to accomplish.
This goes back. I mean, this is typical Republicanism. This is why I never, when I introduce myself, I've never once in my life said I'm James Edwards and I'm a Republican. Donald Trump and Ron Paul are the only two Republicans I've ever.
I'm James Edwards and I'm a Republican.
I'm not even a recovering Republican because I've never been one. But no, I mean, and this is why, is because they don't play to win. They don't go, and this is something that we have talked about with Lou Moore and with so many people. I mean, if not now, when? If you're not going to press your advantage now, because let me tell you something. If they do ever regain power post-Trump, we're all gone.
You're right about that. I agree, and that's the problem. Is that's why we've got to take action, and we haven't done it. Let me give you another example. I just got an email from American News Nation. Subject: Crockett. That's the Democratic Texan representative, right? Crockett caught hiding key info from Congress. Well, there you go. So what? Nothing's going to be done about it, James. Who cares? I'll just tell you about it, and then they'll move on, right? We're still talking.
Pretty much.
You got Glenn Beck.
That is it.
You got Glenn Beck. And what's the guy's name? Steve Baker and Glenn Beck are talking about the J6 story still. And I appreciate that, and I'm glad people got released from J6. But what about the government's abuse side of the story? And are people going to prison for that? No, they're not doing anything. Congress is sitting at home twiddling their thumbs, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, the Republicans don't fight to win. No, they don't fight to win. They don't fight to take out the enemy. They fight to really be accepted. Well, this has always been the case. Now, not so much in this Trump administration, but certainly has been the case of the Republicans throughout history. And
I hoped it would be different under Trump, and I hoped it would be different when we control all the House, the Senate, the courts, the White House. I had hoped it would be different, and I'm telling you right now, I don't see a difference. And the only way Republicans are going to gain the win in the midterm is if they can use this socialism against the Democrats or this communism agenda. They watch some of the Democrat areas melt down to prove their point. That's the only way they'll win. And or if they take the gloves off and fight for real. And the way you take the gloves off and fight for real is you give the American people a couple of wins for a change, like shutting down the IRS, like dealing with land and giving the American people their land back from federal government manipulation and control. You've got to do some things to get some gains. And what serious topic are they working on gains for? Do you know of any that they're really on top of, that they're poised to deliver? I don't know of a single one, James, really.
Yep, there you go. Yep, they have always historically existed to be accepted by the left, and then after 5 or 10 years codify the left's latest innovations. We hope that will change.
And the proof in the pudding is right now they're holding the line saying, let's stay with Joe Biden's budget, shall we? And open the government. Let's go with don't ask, don't tell policy from the gay and lesbians instead of the promotion of the gay and lesbians. Why do they always do that? Carve your own plans, ladies and gentlemen. Abolish the IRS. Shut down the education department. I mean, now you're getting somewhere, baby. Come on. All right, I'm Sam Bushman. James Edwards is with me. Hey, everybody, tell James Edwards he needs to update his racism, spatialism book and re-release it, okay? By the way, his website's thepoliticalcesspool.org, incredible talk radio 24/7. I'm Sam Bushman, syndicated by Loving Liberty, lovingliberty.net. God save our republic.